Greenleaf Printing and Designs has stupendous signage, printed and embroidered apparel, and promotional products for you. They're at 5526 Burkhart Road in Dayton and on the web at greenleafprinting.com. Saudi Arabia is a rich cash country. You know.
Well, yeah, but if you look at water, or you go buy a bottle of water, right?
Yeah.
How much does a bottle of water cost you? $1.29 at 16 ounces,
yeah.
maybe? Okay. So how many 16 ounces in a gallon? 64? Four of those?
Like that, yeah. Yes,
whatever. The long story short is you pay more for water than you do for oil. So and water in Dayton is, yes, accessible, but even we kind of waste it and don't use it correctly. So yeah, we're the water capital, and going forward, you know, having access to that particular source, plus tied to our great soil, Bailey down in Clinton and all those counties, you know, is a positive asset going forward. But like I said, I'm afraid we're going to get to the point where we're continuing on this globalization track, and the people that know about growing things, about transporting things, and about doing things are going to pass away, and we aren't going to have a younger generation trained for those kinds of work. So Dayton is very well suited to do this stuff. You know, I've also recommended that, you know, we own the RTA system, and the RTA system, you know, collects passengers from out western Montgomery County. Why not put, you know, foodstuffs on there grown locally? I'm not saying you should let Kroger's put stuff on there, but local farmers and local people that are inside served by bus, instead of them driving, just put them on the bus for free and take them to downtown to the 2nd Street Market.
Makes sense. If you were mayor, president, czar of Montgomery County, what would you do to solve this big mess within a month? I mean, of course, it's
Montgomery County. You know, obviously you would change almost everything. You make a regional government. I mean, an enlightened despot is really the way things get done, you know, most rapidly and kind of the best way. Democracy from a mob rules without understanding certain things doesn't work. So what I would do is, you know, obviously you stop the growth. Obviously you start promoting, you know, infill of the right kind of things, and you start looking at poor investments, I mean poorly built buildings, and deconstructing those and using them for well-built buildings. I mean, if you look at, go back to a lot of the past, a lot of the times pendulums swing too far. You know, the building solar cells for Dayton is a good thing, you know, promoting that kind of technology and promoting use of the regional transportation, i.e. running gas prices up to the point where people are forced to use the bus. And that, nobody wants to say that to force behavior, but that's what taxes are about. That's what incentives are about. It's about looking at what's going to happen in the future, and obviously we're going to have less natural gas, less petroleum, and if we know those things are happening, you know, barring a miracle, why don't you plan for that future? It's very easy to plan for that future if you accept that future, and that future is here.
But there's not one politician, please inform me of them locally, that accepts that vision whatsoever. I mean, it seems like we're willing to let the caskets keep rolling in and playing Lee Greenwood songs and pretending that this is an epic battle for freedom, when, you know, all wars have always been resource wars, and it's getting sad.
Well, and I agree, but I think it's going to take, you know, I go back to a lot of, if you look at it, the military or religion is the best way to change kind of society, because the people that fought for the resource wars, you know, they come back and they try to get jobs and they try to look around in America, and I think they get a different view. So that group that has fought in Iraq, that has participated in the military, might see that investment going forward has kind of made America not what it should be. And there's been plenty of people that come back from those wars that change their mind and change the world. Hopefully they will come up into politics and they will back people that kind of talk about what we talk about. Look, as you're a politician, you can't really back these kind of things, because nobody in the public wants to admit that they have to give up the lifestyle they have. Get in your car. It is a beautiful thing. I mean, the ability to go anywhere you want and to do anything is absolutely amazing technology, and gasoline is an amazing process.
Yeah, it's probably the most transformative technology of human history. People would argue that it's the plane, but the plane really hasn't been as accessible to mass numbers of people as automotive technology. So,
but the plane wouldn't come around except for gasoline. I mean, you mean, you know, your thrust to weight ratio, when you figured out lighter materials, I mean, the plane and the car are nothing but beautiful forms of the transfer of that glorious thing called gasoline. Mm-hmm. And you know, as it runs out, you know, either you have to create a ton less people to use that gasoline like we're going forward, or we have to use it wisely and we have to discuss on how it gets used. And in the end, you know, I love my car and everybody does. So that's the reason politicians won't discuss it. It's because it just goes, your car is associated with freedom.
Sure.
Absolutely American freedom. So you're discussing a whole different paradigm. And until that shifts, and I think it's starting to shift, but the thing is, I have a feeling it's going to shift way too late, because they're going to try to keep things going, just like releasing the strategic petroleum reserves, or, you know, moving people out of the petroleum market, just like the Japanese disaster. A lot of these things are happening to really go against us as a society all at once. Mm-hmm. And the credit crisis is another one. So there's a lot of things that are interconnected, but if you just stop and focus on energy and energy use and what are Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food, energy, love, I mean, all we have to do is work on our energy. We can produce plenty of food in the Dayton area. We have plenty of water, and we will have growth back. I mean, you stop the footprint now, you could probably have, you know, another 1 million people move in and take over all the unoccupied spaces in Dayton, and you would have a great society. Really good. But, you know, now that we're having losing population, I just really wonder if any politician's going to get around to making the right decision.
Well, you know, I hate to go generational on people, but you know, I see the 40 and below crowd really. You know, we've been the brunt of these energy wars. We've been the brunt of the drug wars, and and the morality wars in America that continue, which are so tied into the drug wars. And, you know, the war on drugs is, you know, the war on drugs began when Jim Crow pretty much was outlawed legally. And so what did the government do? They started a new form of Jim Crow as instituted by the war on drugs. And so therefore, you know, and there's a lot of people agree with that. So therefore aren't our local police officials aiding and abetting a modern form of Jim Crow?
Well, yeah. Okay, there used to be I don't disagree. There used to be a thing called sins of omission in the Catholic Church. In other words, and if you look at, and everybody hates to you hate to bring up like Nazi society, but let me tell you, if you're in the profession, any profession, no matter what it is, and you don't own up to what that profession is actually doing to society at large, like you're putting away people that could be tax-paying citizens mm-hmm. over drugs. If they're not, I mean, you legalize drugs, and you know, and there's right ways to do it. People are starting to get there. There's adults in the conversation that recognize America can't afford it. You would solve the Mexico crisis. You would solve Afghanistan if you would legalize a lot of drugs. In other words, legalize what I'm calling it the raw product, i.e., the poppies. Mm-hmm. Not heroin, but the poppies. You can make your own heroin if you want. You can make your own coke if you want from coca leaves. But what you want out is that middleman that's the criminal element. So, you know, our police officers and our prison officials and everybody that makes money off that stuff is kind of hypocritical.
Yeah, kind of dirty. You know, I mean,
yeah,
not trying to like attack anyone personal, but you know, you just have to call it like it is. You know.
Well, that's right. If I'm
Unless you're working to change it.
if I'm traveling down the road in the middle of Wyoming, and I'm going 10 miles over, and I get pulled over, are they pulling me over for safety, or are they pulling me over to collect taxes? Um, I think the
One
police.
justified by the other.
Oh well, that's right. I mean, I think it's a very fine line, and you can see the desire to go to a police state if you're already involved in being in law enforcement, and you're already involved in the political machine. So you have to decide whether you're going to put your friends and neighbors that that are doing the same thing in jail, and how much society can afford that. I mean, I just feel like there's partial guilt on that side.
Oh yeah,
And,
and it's like what I say. It's what drives a lot of the legitimate anger towards the government that so much of the right wing seems to like grab and run like with a football, except they place other boogeymen upon. But yeah, the whole drug war, there's so much legitimate anger towards government, and that it's siphoned off and taken into other areas. But that's a whole other subject for another time. So.
oh yeah, we could go all day, but a lot of these things are interconnected. I mean, how much can society afford to continue to do these things to its own citizens? It can't. It can't afford prisons.
Yeah, it's totally destroyed the city of Dayton. The whole drug war, the violence that is ensued from it, the whole culture of disrespect towards authority. You see it all over the place. People walking in the middle of the streets with a fuck the world attitude. It's all connected to that. Completely.
Well,
We brought it on ourselves.
But if you look at Dayton, it's a very interesting study because if you wall it off and you keep it away, like most of the surrounding suburbs have done, their communities advanced while another one declined. But that kind of decline ends up being a cancer, and in the end, you can't afford that. So you either both communities have to make sacrifices to go forward. Both communities have to understand how we got to where we were. And none of those dialogues are happening. They say, everybody says that discussion's already occurred. I never see it occur. And, I've tried to bring, if you go back to Will Politicians Listen, back when I was in the Chamber of Commerce, I tried to bring up peak oil, in 2003 before it happened. Mm-hmm. That kind of discussion, not even open for discussion. Not even open for discussion in an environmental committee.
Yeah. Wouldn't
even be put on the board. So you almost feel like, well, I guess you got to keep trying, but the data is coming out there right now about these subjects, and you better get on board as being a leader. Dayton Power and Light just got sold off. Now, those assets, like I say, I would rather own the power company than the roads if I was a community. We own water, we own wastewater, and the other form of, either you own the food production and you own energy is next, and that's what makes a community happen. Nothing else can happen unless those things are taken care of. So, power production and those kinds of things, Dayton is slowly losing, and you get worried about it because those investments are harder to come back and harder to have a discussion about. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's all these things are interconnected, but I think, when they're interconnected, you can get people to be worried about something else and get them focused elsewhere, and you can make your money and leave Dayton. And that's what happens, I think, politically. Now, I left Dayton, but I want to come back. So I love the place, and I miss it. Mm-hmm. But, the opportunities there are not there for what I do and where I'm at today. So it's a very tough thing. But, in Denver, it's very hard to grow things, and it's very hard to – but in Ohio, you have water, you have sun, you put up with some stuff, but it produces things. It has more of the things.
Yeah. There's a reason people came here and fought over it to begin with.
Yeah, it's a beautiful – and we kind of wanted to be like the rest of the world. Well, do what you do well and take care of your citizens. Sure. What is the problem?
Yeah, we're in a decent place, and usually it all has to do with place of mind anyway. So,
Yeah,
Anyway,
absolutely.
I'm going to get going. You have a great day. I thank you for your time very much.